Hello, everyone. My name is Ian Rowe.
And I'm Nique.
And welcome to The Invisible Men, where we make the achievements of incredible men invisible no more. Hello, my name is Ian Rowe, a resident fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, and welcome to The Invisible Men.
Hello, I'm Nique, a member of the Leadership Network at AEI.
And Nique, great to see you. Very excited for us to be here, talking about the invisible men and the idea of Black excellence. And we are always excited to feature individuals who embody Black excellence, not only in their own lives, but those who are helping the next generation discover the pathways through which they can become excellent themselves. So we're very excited to have Will Crossley, who heads a fantastic school that you may never have heard of, the Piney Woods School, which I'm very thankful that we can introduce our listeners to this great institution. So Will, welcome to The Invisible Men. Why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what Piney Woods is all about?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, Ian and Nique. I'm so excited to be on with you today and share with you what we're doing at our school, what our young people are doing here, and a little bit about why we do this work. And so thank you for having me on.
Yeah, excellent. So where are you right now, Will? And we're at the beginning of school. You lead Piney Woods. Tell us what first of all, what is Piney Woods? Where are you, and how are things going as you are now opening for the school year?
Yeah, so Piney Woods School, it is an historically African American boarding prep program in rural Mississippi, in the Deep South, and we began 111 years ago.
Wow.
With the idea of investing in young African Americans who were looking to improve their own life and their own circumstances. And in many ways, that's the work we continue to do today. Lawrence C. Jones, who started our school, had come down from Iowa. He was a rare college-educated African American, and really set the tone for excellence here on the campus that we hope that our students will embody, and which we all try to embody as a part of the community here. So I'm here. I'm on the campus with our young people. We have invited them back to campus for this fall. And we're really excited to have our young people. They come to us from over 20 states and several foreign jurisdictions. It's a really wonderful, diverse group of African, Caribbean, African American young scholars.
Wow, and what grades does Piney Woods serve?
Yeah, so we have students from grades 8 through 12, roughly ages 13 to 18. We were historically K through 12, and we reopened, we shrunk to 9 through 12, and then we reopened because we wanted to make some opportunities for students who are a little bit younger to come to our school. I have found that if we begin training our young people to be self-disciplined and to strive for excellence at the earliest ages, they have those tools with them for life.
Yeah, when I was running my charter school network, I had a phrase, start early with the end in mind.
Yes,
and
indeed.
You can imbue those kinds of principles of self-discipline, self-regulation. The earliest ages, it makes all the difference in the world. And so before Nique asks his first question, what's your personal connection to Piney Woods?
Oh, well, my story really is the Piney Woods School story. Piney Woods School started here in rural Mississippi, really with one man and one student on a fallen log, teaching him how to read. And now our campus stretches some 2,000 acres and includes forest and a 250-acre demonstration farm, which we use in our educational program, and more. And so it was really a school that started very much on passion, very much on determination and perseverance. And in many ways, that's my own story. When I was 13 years old, I got a scholarship to come to school here. I've been born on the south side of Chicago in fairly humble circumstances. Between kindergarten and the 7th grade, I changed schools at least 7 times.
Wow.
Because our family was constantly moving. My mother searching for a better place for myself, and I have 3 sisters. And then I got a chance to come here, and I came here in the 8th grade and had stability from the 8th grade through the 12th grade. And it was an experience that changed my life. It allowed me to go to the University of Chicago as an undergraduate student. And I'm from Inglewood, a neighborhood of Chicago. Most people from Inglewood, and as I didn't growing up, know much about what the University of Chicago is, much less get an opportunity to go to school there. And so that was frankly unheard of. But then Harvard University and University of Virginia for law school, I practiced law, and then I got a call inviting me to come back. And this was an opportunity that I knew I could not turn down. And so I am privileged, really, to be able to serve in this capacity. The first alumnus to serve as head of Piney Woods School. It's an honor and a privilege to be able to do so.
Will, who was it? Who was it that said we need to send this young man down to Piney Woods? Who had that vision?
Well, I suppose my mother was perhaps the biggest influence behind it. But we learned about the school through our church, and someone in the church shared it with my mother and with my aunt. And quite frankly, the schools in Chicago were not schools where my mom had a lot of faith that I was going to be successful. That wasn't the record. And so she wanted to put me in a space that was going to have the highest expectations of me and offer me stability and opportunity. And that's what Piney Woods did.
So as 8th grade Will, when they told you you're heading down to Mississippi for the next number of years, what was your initial reaction to that?
So I was actually really excited about coming to school here until my parents got back in their vehicle and began to drive. This my mom and her sister, my aunt. They got back in their vehicle and began to drive off the campus, and I realized I wasn't going with them. And suddenly the fear set in, and I realized I'd have to figure out how to make it on my own, and it was not easy, I must say. Initially, it was not, but we embrace our students here, and I was embraced, and it was a good result in the end.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
I love the philosophy that you've developed. Hearts, head, and hands. What is that about? I love that.
Yeah, so we talk a lot about educating the whole child, head, heart, and hands. We believe in experiential learning here. But Lawrence Jones, who started the school, he was also a follower of folks like W.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington. And so he believed in educating the mind for sure, but he also knew the reality of African Americans in the Deep South. Many of them needed a trade in order to be successful in the communities in which they lived. Many African-American communities here in Mississippi and across the South were somewhat self-sufficient in those days. And so if you had a trade, you could essentially start your own business. And we produced a number of folks who were, on the one hand, teachers and school administrators who were investing in the mines, but we also produced a lot of people who started construction companies and plumbing companies and car service body shops. And so a true sort of entrepreneurial spirit, I think, is born out of this notion of educating the head, the hands, and the heart, educating the whole child, if you will.
It's so interesting. Well, go ahead, Nique.
Well, no, so I heard Du Bois, I heard Booker T. Washington. We occasionally do something called the speed round on the podcast. And so going to just give you a couple of names. You tell me which one, you lean towards and kind of why. So we'll start with Martin or Malcolm.
I have to choose Martin. He was a childhood hero, and I think his approach is one that aligns more with me personally. So,
very good. And you mentioned Du Bois, so let's go Du Bois or Garvey.
I go with Du Bois. Well, I went to Harvard. You all went to Harvard, so we'll pick a fellow alum. But no, I think the empowerment of the mind is huge for me and allows us to make our way in the world. And so I think his efforts here, I don't know, it's tough because he also had his own journey with Africa. So, but I'll pick Du Bois.
Very good. And then two tent poles: economic development or civil rights.
Well, I'm not sure you have success unless you have both. And so, is there a middle ground on the two, or I have to pick one?
You got to pick one.
I'll choose civil rights. I was a civil rights lawyer for many years, and so I'll pick my own personal experience.
Very good. And the last one: Jim Brown or Muhammad Ali.
Well, let's go with the champ. Muhammad Ali stood very strongly on principles of what he believed and never gave up to the very end. And so that kind of that kind of fortitude is something that I try to model in my own work.
Very good.
Will, I was struck by the stories that you were just talking about, the level of entrepreneurship. Many years ago in the early stages of Piney Woods, it was almost as if the inventiveness in the Black community in particular had to exist because there were so many legal restrictions. There was a level of inventiveness, of innovation, of entrepreneurship that you cite. What do you think? What do you think is required to spark that same kind of inventiveness, that innovation, in today's era amongst young Black people and people of all races? Frankly, this idea of self-reliance, it seems like it was born out of necessity, 100 years ago, with the legal restrictions, and now with many of those legal restrictions gone. How do we spark that same level of we can do this? We can do this.
Yeah, so I talk to students here a lot about what I call the 3 C's, that they will be curious, creative, and constructive. Intellectually curious, that they will that they'll question, right? They'll investigate and wonder and discover. And so I think that's one of the principles, that we give them space here to be creative, and and really to grow and develop their own creativity. And so whether that's through our project-based learning or through our arts programs, we have plenty of opportunities for that. But then also important that we show them how to take what may be in their minds from a point of creativity and translate it into something constructive that will allow them to engage the world and the world to engage with them on whatever that thing is. And so so those are the underpinnings of the sort of project-based, inquiry-based curricula that we have here at Piney Woods. And so you mentioned self-sufficiency. It's a part of that. We have a demonstration farm here. All of our students participate in helping us to work the farm, but we also use the farm to teach our students about entrepreneurship. And so we sometimes sell goods into market. We sold into our local Whole Foods and local co-op here,
Wow.
organically grown Piney Woods fruits and vegetables. But we also believe in, from the field to the fork. And so our students grow some of what they eat. And all of that's in an effort to teach our students about self-sufficiency and the importance of being both financially self-sufficient, as well as self-sufficiency as a principle, as a way of living. And so, so all of that comes together in sort of a whole package that we use to pursue that head, heart, and hands education that we talked about.
Well, Will, it's really inspiring to speak to you. I mean, you're an institution that for generations has already declared that Black Lives Matter, right? And you've been cultivating that next generation of excellence. 30 years ago, Nique and I, when we were at Harvard Business School together, we birthed this idea of The Invisible Men. It was a film where we gathered different Black men from the various Harvard graduate schools to provide advice to an imaginary 16-year-old young kid named Daryl, who lived in forgotten USA, just an imaginary urban city, who was facing a host of challenges. And that the whole idea was for us to provide advice to Daryl for how he could make his way in the world. And so with all the challenges today that young Black men are facing, the issues that many of us are coping with, police brutality, the lack of opportunity, or in fact, sometimes maybe opportunities, but maybe not known to them. Any words of wisdom as we close that you'd want to provide to Daryl, given that there are many Daryls around the country, of all races, frankly, who need counsel about how to build that same kind of self-sufficiency that you're talking about?
Yeah. Yeah, so just listening to you talk, I recognize in some ways, I am Daryl, right? And I was fortunate to be able to come to school here because someone invested in my education, and all of our students receive a scholarship here, and so I'd invite folks to visit us online at pineywoods.org. You can invest in our young people, because we're educating young people just like Daryl. So I really do believe that I am probably speaking to Daryl every day. And what I say to our Daryls at Piney Woods is pretty simple. I charge them to not just dream, but dream big. Have big dreams. And I charge them further that they owe themselves a big dream, because achieving that big dream is their rightful place in the world. Someone spoke that into me when I was a student here. I think we all owe it to our young people to speak life into them and speak the life of the dreams that they have, of those dreams being reality. And so So I invite Daryl also to go online and look us up, pineywoods.org, and apply today. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe one day he can make it to be the president and the headmaster of the Piney Woods School himself.
I'd gladly step aside.
Okay, okay. Well, Will, thank you very much. You, as we say, you embody the idea of Black excellence, not the idea, the reality of Black excellence, and putting more young people on the path in that journey. And so thank you very much for joining us. Once again, my name is Ian Rowe, Resident Fellow of American Enterprise Institute.
Thank you, Will. That was fantastic. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Invisible Men. Thank you for watching another episode of The Invisible Men. You can find other episodes at the AEI podcast channel on YouTube or the website invisible.men or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.